Time for a real estate market update, and this one is going to have a little bit of bonus material. Okay, so we're going to look at Massachusetts overall. We always look at Bristol County. We look at a little bit of multifamilies, Massachusetts, Bristol County. We look at the hometowns, but once in a while I like to sprinkle in a little of surrounding counties because we're so close to each other. There's a lot of crossover. I'm in these counties all the time, but we also want to look at Norfolk, and we want to look at Plymouth. So we're going to throw them in the mix a little bit also, but let's not waste any time. Let's dive right into it. So mortgage rates, what's it been looking like right now? That's always the hot topic. What do mortgage rates look like? So Leader Bank, I've worked with Leader Bank quite often. Some really good people there. Leader Bank right now on a 30-year interest rate, 6.49%. APR, 6.54%. So that's on a 30-year fixed conforming rate. So as we talk about every time we do this, APR is what you want to look at because that's going to include the fees, just to simplify it for you, versus the interest rate. And again, like always, these rates are subject to change at any time. This is just the most up-to-date information that I have for the bank. So let's jump over to People's Credit Union just so you can see another bank. People's Credit Union right now, 6.00% for their interest rate, 6.085 for their APR. Okay, and then also to introduce into my new world, if you've been following my channel, is I now also work at BayCoast Bank. Okay, over on the insurance side, but BayCoast Bank, I've been meeting a lot of the loan officers and mortgage professionals over here. And there's a lot of cool stuff that we can do right here at BayCoast. So if you're looking for your mortgage, I highly recommend just reaching out to me because there's a lot of things that we can do, especially when you're looking at certain rates and different things like that at maybe another institution. We might be able to work with you with some certain things. So just without giving too much information, just give me a call if you're looking for a mortgage. But if you're just trying to know the rates, that's very helpful to know the ones that I just went over. So but let's dive into the rest of it, right? So Massachusetts, what's been going on the last 30 days? So Massachusetts, average list price, $898,000. Average sales price, $909,000. And again, I've touched base on this a few times, this is average, right? So there's another thing called the median, right? And that's just if you listed every single one, 1 to 1,354, whatever it is. So actually, I'll give you the number, 3,293. So median will be a little different, but I'm not going to dive into that right now. But also, so if you hear something a little different, it could be the median that you heard. But I always like to go with the average. Median is important too. I do like to do that also. But this isn't a video to go into a deep dive explaining all that. So let's get back on track here before I go off on a tangent too much. Average days on market, 36. And a few things that jumped out to me. So from, as we've been seeing for a long time now, so from about 250,000 to 2,499,000, you're looking at, asking 2% above, 3% above, 1% above, 2% above, 3%, 4%, 2%. So all asking or above, right? That whole range, right? As soon as you get over 2,499,000, that's when you start to see a little bit below. So obviously, if you're a seller, then these are things to be aware of. But if you're in the market to buy, then it's the flip side, right? It's one benefits the other. So you're starting to see, not starting to see, I shouldn't say, we've been seeing, but that's when it starts to get a little below asking. So from like 2.5 million all the way up to over 10 million, you're looking at like 1% below, 1% below, 3% below, 2% below, 4% below, and then the 10 million plus range, you're looking at 10% below. That was the average. So when I say these numbers too, I'm like 1% below, 2% above. What I mean is it's a category, right? So like 1% below is a category from like 2.5 million to 2,999,000. So that would be like 1% below. It doesn't mean just one home I'm talking about. So just to clarify some of that, because I know I've made these I feel it's like a million of these videos, but sometimes I don't clarify. So if you're just jumping in for the first time, you might not know, what I mean by some of that. So, so let's dive into, some of the specifics, what I'm seeing jump out to me. So from 1 million to 1,499,000. So there was 453 homes in that category, and they went on average 4% above asking. So that was the hottest spot. If you're on the seller side, 1 million to 1.49 million. So also the 500,000 to 599,000, we always see that as like the number one as far as a category with number of homes. 462 homes. So that was the top, category, for the number of homes. We're still seeing that trend continue, 500 to 599,000. So, and just so you know what that average was, 2% above asking. All right, let's jump over to Bristol County. So Bristol County, average list price, 608,000. Average sales price, 614,000. Average days on market, 39. And again, so you're just seeing a big chunk in the middle. And it's from 300,000 all the way up to 999,000. Everything in that category is at asking, 2% above, 2% above, 4% above, even, 2%, even. As soon as you get over, into 1 million plus, you're starting to see the dip. So you're seeing 3% below asking from the 1 million to $1.49 million range. You're jumping to 3% below asking, So that was based on 10 homes. It's not just like a one-off. So that's a key category if you're looking to buy that you might want to take a look at. So, but then there was one outlier. So of all the ones above, there was one home that was listed for $2,295,000, and it sold for $2,400,000. So it went for 5% above asking, but that was the only outlier there. As far as the number of homes go, 500,000 to 599,000, 70 homes, in that range was the number one for number of homes in a category. And for how those homes went, 2% above asking for that category. All right, now for some of the bonus material, Norfolk County. So Norfolk, average list price, 1,167,000. Average sales price, 1,189,000. On average, 3% over asking. Average days on market, 30. Couple categories to jump out to me over here. This one wasn't the $500,000 to $599,000 range. The number one range here was from $700,000 to $799,000. 50 homes in that range. So the 500 to 599 in Norfolk was only 38 homes. So, and in total, just because I got it from me, I might as well tell you, 367 homes sold, and these are single family homes in Norfolk. So some of the other categories that jumped out, as far as above, so we're seeing this big long range from 450,000 to 3,999,000. It's all 2% above, 3%, 4% above, 6% above. That's the one I wanted to talk about. So from 900,000 to 999,000, 31 homes in this category. On average, all 31, put them together, 6% above asking. So that's pretty substantial. So just to see it in real numbers, the average list price, $894,000, and the average sales price was $944,000 on those 31 homes. So that's quite a significant, increase there, 6% above for that one category. Even the number one category that we already talked about, 700,000 to 799,000, the 50 homes there, they went on average 4% above asking. All right, let's jump over to Plymouth County. So in Plymouth County, we're seeing the same thing. Got this one chunk in the middle from 400,000 to 2,499,000, and that whole range, asking or above, 1% above, 4%. I could go through it again, all the way up to 5% above. So the line of demarcation here was that opening range from 400,000 to 449,000. That was 1% above. As soon as you go, below that range, you go from the 350,000 to 399,000. It went to 3% below asking. So if you're trying to get into Plymouth County, that could be a sweet spot for you. 350,000 to 399,000. But hold on one second, I'm not done, because if you just go a little below that, from 300,000 to 349,000, that's also 3% below. So that's what really jumped out at me here. those two ranges, and it was 11 homes total between the two ranges. One had 7 homes, one had 4. So 11 homes from 300,000 to 399, and on average, 3% below asking. So there could be an opportunity there, you know, if you're looking to get into Plymouth County. And for Plymouth County, the average list price was $858,000. Average sales price was $865,000. On average, 1% over asking. Average days on market, 43. All right, let's take a little detour over to the multifamilies real quick for the investors out there. So for Massachusetts, multifamilies, average list price, $861,000. Average sales price, $857,000. So on average, they went for even. You know, it's a few thousand different, but that's how the numbers calculate to about even. So average days on market, 38. And again, we're seeing, you know, that little range where there's like a whole bracket you could put around it, I guess, from 300,000 down to 2,499,000. And in that whole range, that's where you saw pretty much even or above asking, maybe 1% below, a couple in there. But the little line of demarcation, really some opportunities here. So these are probably the fixer-uppers, those kind of homes. But from 150,000 to 199, it was 10% below asking. From 200,000 to 249,000 was 10% below. And from 250,000 to 299,000 was 6% below. So a lot of opportunity there. But as soon as you go from 299 to 300, it jumped up to what you're asking. So if you're looking to get in, you know, maybe the fixer-uppers, you see a little bit of an opportunity on the multifamilies there. All right, let's dive over to Bristol County. Bristol County multifamilies, on average, 1% below asking. So average list price, $676,000. Average sales price, $666,000. Average days on market, 37. And that was based on 59 properties. So seeing a little bit of a mixed batch here, but a lot of things were kind of clumped together. Most of the sales were from 400,000 to 1,499,000, and quite a range. You're seeing like 2% below, 3% above, but that's like one-offs. Where you're seeing a lot of the quantity of homes. 600,000 to 699,000 was 19 of those homes, and they went on average 1% below asking. But then you jump right up over 699, you go into 700,000 to 799, only 7 homes, but still 2% above asking. So you go from 699 to 700, and then, you know, those two ranges, you go from 1% below to 2% above. So that's a 3% swing right there. All right, now my hometowns. So it's been going on in Swansea. So Swansea, on average, 1% below asking. So average list price, $661,000. Average sales price, $651,000. Average days on market, 62. So that's a lot higher than you were seeing overall in Massachusetts. Now it's based on 12 homes. So let's dive into it. So it's kind of a mixed batch. I'll kind of go through it a little bit. But, you know, the majority of those homes, of those 12 homes that sold, 450,000 to 499,000. 4 of the homes were there, and they went on average even. You go right above that, 500,000 to 599. That was 5 homes sold there, and they went on average 2% below asking. So a little bit of a swing there. So that 450, 499, kind of the sweet spot for your seller. If you're a buyer, sweet spot 500,000 to 599 right now. You know, on average 2% below asking. Then if you jump up to 1 million to 1,499,000, there's only 2 homes, but they went on average 2% below asking. And the average days on market on those was 13 days. So those move quick and on average below asking. All right, let's jump over to Seekonk. So in Seekonk, average list price, $571,000. Average sales price, $568,000. Average days on market, 46. So things are selling quicker than they were in Swansea. And this is based on 5 homes. And those 5 properties are kind of spread out in almost, you know, all different categories. There's only one category that had 2 homes. Every other one was in its own category. So it's kind of tough to gauge. But what you're seeing is 4% below, 1% above, 6% below. But the one that stood out as far as a high percentage was the one that had 2 homes in it, 700,000 to 799,000, and they went on average 3% above asking. What about Somerset? So Somerset, on average, 1% above asking. Average list price, $594,000. Average sales price, $598,000. Average days on market, 23. And that's based on 14 homes. So things are moving really quick, you know, quicker than overall Massachusetts and Swansea and Seekonk in Somerset. So things are moving fast. So if you're going to put an offer in over there, if you're looking at something there, you might want to expedite a little bit as far as trying to get that process going, because 23 days on average, you know, that's a good number. So let's deep dive into that a little bit. So you've seen this whole chunk here from 450,000 to 999,000, and that's a big chunk of where most of the homes were sold, besides one other one, and it was like 8% above asking. So from 450 to 499,000, 2 homes there, and they went on average 8% above asking. So I didn't deep dive into that and look specifically. Maybe it was just one of those homes went way over asking. I'm not sure. It was only 2, but on average, that's what the numbers are. So the hot spot here again, 500,000 to 599,000, 6 homes. It was the most, like we see in Massachusetts, and they went on average even. All right, let's jump over to Dighton. So in Dighton, on average, 1% over asking. Average list price, 599,000. Average sales price, 605,000. Average days on market, even better over here, 17 days. So that's quick. So if you're trying to sell, that's fast. If you're trying to buy, gotta move fast. So this is only based on 7 homes, but still 7 homes, pretty good sample size, you know, for a town that size. So of those 7, 5 of the homes came in the $500,000 to $599,000 range. And they went on average 2% above asking. Jump over to Rehoboth. Rehoboth, on average, even. So average list price, 918,000. Average sales price, 914,000. So technically, I guess it's a little below, but when they do the math, it comes out to even. Average days on market, 54. So what a dramatic change from Dighton to Rehoboth, right? 54 days. And this is based on 9 homes. And again, the chunk, 500,000 to 1,999,000. Everything, all those categories in between there had sales, and they went on average a mixed bucket, right? So as we see even, so some are even, some are 3% below asking, a little bit of opportunity. One was really high above, and that's one of the few that had 2 in one category, and it was 900,000 to 999,000, 2 of the homes there, and they went on average 6% above asking. As soon as you go over that though, 1 million to 1,499,000, you drop down to 6% below, but that was one home. And then above that, the home above that was 1% below also. That's a wrap for this month's real estate market update. Thank you so much for watching. Again, reach out. Any questions you have with real estate. You know, now I'm really deep diving into insurance. You know, I've been helping a lot of people. So if you want me to take a look at your insurance, I can do that too. Also, right after this video, so you're gonna see me dressed exactly the same, because I'm gonna do the hot towns. It's getting hot outside. It's time for the hot towns. Let's see what the hottest towns are in Massachusetts. So stay tuned for that video. That'll be released, you know, within a week or so after this video gets released. All right, thank you for watching. Reach out if you have any questions.